We're following breaking news live at 5. A mistrial declared in the case involving a father accused in the death of his 8-year-old daughter.
Prosecutors say she was beaten to death with a rolling pin. Atlanta News First, Adam Murphy, live at 5. Just getting out of that courtroom there in Lawrenceville. We spoke to you 15 minutes ago. This is that update.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Yeah, we just got out of the courtroom. The judge actually brought everybody back in, including the jury, and had a series of questions for the foreperson of the jury. One of those questions was, has the jury been deadlocked? And the answer was yes. We've learned the jury was deadlocked since Friday, that there was just one person that could not agree with the rest of the jury. And we're talking about 12 people on this jury. So 11 had reached a consensus, but we had one that was holding out. And of course, the judge wanted to know how long the jury had been deadlocked, and we're now learning that was since Friday. The other thing that was asked of this foreperson was, would more time deliberating help them reach an agreement? And the answer was no. And so at that point in time, Judge Byers made the call that this was going to be a mistrial. So now the question is, when will the retrial happen? And at this hour, there's a lot of discussion from both sides, the prosecutor, the defense side. They're all trying to determine, based on scheduling, when they can actually do another trial and actually bring in a new jury. So that is the decision and the breaking news at this hour. It's a mistrial in this case, and we'll continue to follow any new developments as they become available. And we're live outside Superior Court at the Gwinnett County Justice Center. Adam Murphy, Atlanta News First.
All right, Adam, thank you. And more breaking